Hi, you're listening to Phil DeBella, and this is FlashCast by PDB. And today's topics come in by a organisation that I do some work with at the university, at Griffith University, and it's come in from one of their senior execs there, and they say, well, how do we align employees with company priorities? So that question, thank you, Griffith University. How do we align employees with company priorities? And it's a great question because, you know, people need to understand that the employee and the company priorities are one. The company doesn't actually have a heartbeat. The heartbeat of a company is its employees, it's people. So if we take the word employee out and say people, how do we align our people with our company priorities? I think that's a great start. So the number one answer I would say to that, well, the first thing I would say is change the word employee to people, because it's not only the employees that need to be aligned to company priorities, it's the people within the organization from the top down and down to the top, and everyone in between needs to be aligned with the company priorities. And often what happens in organizations, especially government organizations, political organizations, corporate organizations, is that all the strategy gets done at the top level and gets pushed down to its employees. But if we change the terminology to people, how do we best align our people to our company priorities, right? Then we have a start, we have a change in language, which then flows down to the next part. Make all people part of your priority. So everyone in your organization needs to be part of your priority, right? You need to make sure that your priorities within the organization are led by all people within the business, because it's all people that will then go and build your business. And I say this, coffee doesn't come in the door to buy coffee. So in any of my coffee businesses, we focus on people. In any of our cafe businesses, it's people. It doesn't matter what business, it's people. It's always people that deliver what the company wants to achieve. And the number one mistake people make is that they ascertain or they build silos, employees, employer, management, executives, workers. Forget that. It's all people. All people within an organization need to align with the company's priority, right? And what we need to do is to remember that there's certain elements that are in play here. And number one is everyone in the organization should know the vision of the organization. And the vision can be the purpose, the goals, but everybody within the organization needs to understand what the vision is. And in my organization, when I ran DeBella Coffee and then sold it and exited in 2017, right up until the day I left, everyone knew that what I wanted DeBella to be was responsible for 5 million cups of coffee per week. By the time I left in 30 June 2017, I wanted the organization to be responsible for 5 million cups of coffee per week. And that was a vision, that was a goal and a purpose that everyone could align with. It wasn't about revenue, it wasn't about dollars. It was a vision that I set that everyone within the organization could align with. They felt an emotional buy-in, right? And what that meant was that I knew what my employees' priorities were. I knew what my people's priorities would be. And their priority would be to deliver and contribute to that 5 million. And it didn't matter if they were on telesales, if they were online sales, they were out on the force selling, whether they were roasting coffee, packing coffee, whether they were dealing with complaints, whether they were doing accounting. It didn't matter. Everyone within the organization knew that the priority was to be part of 5 million cups of coffee per week. And what happens is that most organizations don't understand what the people within the organization, what their personal priorities are. And when I talk about personal priorities, all of person turns up to work, not just the work person, not the professional person. So in knowing the priorities of my people, I always made sure that they addressed what they wanted to achieve personally, professionally, and family. And if you follow my FlashCast, you've heard me say this many times. You need to know what people's priorities are in terms of their personal life, their family life, and their professional life. And if you can show as an organization that you care about the people within it, not just their professional achievements and priorities, but if you know what they want to prioritize in terms of family and personal, then you are going to be far ahead of any of your competition. Because what good people do is care for people. And care is an underrated word. We all want to be cared for. We all want to be around people that care for us. We all want to work with organizations that care about us. So if you want to align your people to company priorities, then you need to know your people's priorities, and not just in terms of professional. You need to know their priorities in terms of personal and family. The next thing is you need to communicate what the company priorities are. The amount of organizations that I've worked with where people say, well, you should know why you're turning up to work. Well, why should they? You as an organization should be very clear as whether you're the owner of the organization, you're the managing partner, managing director, whoever holds that top seat, which is the level of responsibility. The person in that highest seat has the most responsibility. And part of their responsibility is to ensure that they communicate what the company's priorities are, right? Tell the people within the organization what the company needs to achieve in the next week, in the next month, in the next year, right? Tell them what they need to achieve so that they understand where they're going. They understand what that destination for the week, for the month, for the year is, and be clear and consistent and do it often. And that's the key. So part one of that is to tell the people within the organization exactly what they need to achieve today, for the week, for the month, or for the year, and work on being very clear and consistent, and do this often. And I often say that communication is the common denominator of failure. Anytime I've seen things break down, relationships, businesses, whatever it is, it's always about poor communication. And if you think about the last time something broke down, the last time you had an argument with a friend, with a partner, you didn't like a restaurant, whatever it is, it'll be the communication. It won't actually be about the product. It won't be about, the thing, the material thing. It'll actually be about the intangible. It'll be about that communication. It'll be the way you were spoken to, the way that that things were dealt with, or it'll be about what somebody said. So we need to make sure that we often communicate clearly and consistently what the priorities are. What are the priorities of the company for the day, for the week, for the month, or the year? The next one is to align interests to responsibilities. And what I mean by that is, if you're working in the best interest of your people, then they need to be aligned to responsibilities. And one thing that I've always used here that works well is the word values. If you can if you can identify the values of your organization and then match it to the people that have similar values within the organization or respect the same values, then you are going to achieve success. You will align your people with your company priorities. And let me say it again, align the interests of your people to the responsibilities. Now, you need to make sure that everything is aligned. And in order to align it, you need to make sure that you can identify what the interests are. And like I said, the big one here is values. So I love doing a values exercise that identifies the values of the organization and then the values of the people within the organizations. And if you can actually align those values, then you'll automatically align the interests of the people to the responsibilities of what needs to happen within the organization. Now, these are some of the things that I find have worked. There's been plenty of other things that don't. Unfortunately, in certain organizations, and I'm guilty of this, is that when you're charging on 100 miles an hour, you can't always take everybody along on the journey. However, what I've found from experience is that in order to align your people to company priorities, you need to, as you're busier, as you're growing bigger, you need to place even more effort, attention, and time in this area. Because if you don't, it becomes that 1 degree of separation. 1 degree of separation today means not a lot. The next day means more. And by the time you get down to 6 months, 12 months, the 1 degree has become 90 degrees of separation and people are going in different directions. So you need to make sure that you're constantly working on aligning your people to your company priorities. And the best way I can say this is make sure that everybody's clear of your vision. Make sure everybody's part of your strategy and make sure that you have the capability in your organization to execute. So let me say that again in summary. In order to align your people to company priorities, you need to be very clear about your vision. You need to make sure that you involve your people with the strategy development, and you need to make sure that you have the capability to execute. Until next time, you've been listening to Phil DeBella. Go and be the best you can be. This has been FlashCast by PDB.